everyone. Welcome to the special Vlogmas series of my Life Talk podcast, The Ivory Tower Be Ivory, the show that talks about the dark, unpolished, secret side of higher education. I'm your host, Dr. V, former college professor turned digital creator and entrepreneur. If you want the Cliff Note versions of how to make a transition in your life, check out my complimentary life class at drvernitaglenwhite.com/start-here, and that information will be down below. In today's episode, we will discuss the ins and outs of an article I read on Inside Higher Ed. Harvard hires its first Black president. Be sure to listen all the way through. You will hear some great offers, and you'll be supporting me by boosting the watch time. I would also appreciate your support by hitting the buttons, the like, the subscribe, and the share button if something sparked you to do so. And remember, it is free. Sometimes I do have guests on my Live Talk podcast, and you can watch them on my playlist of Women Who Vibe and From Resume to Reinvention, located on my channel in the playlist. However, in this series of Vlogmas, you will just be with me. The Ivory Tower Be Ivory is a special Vlogmas series brought to you by Brilliant Wellness, my e-commerce shop. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. I got into the e-commerce wellness space when I was working as a college professor for several reasons. I wanted a high-quality way to take care of my body when I was traveling to different conferences, speaking, and doing consultant work. I wasn't always eating or sleeping well, and I knew I couldn't keep this up for long before doing some serious damage to my body. The second reason I got into e-commerce was to be able to share with others who trusted me and valued my opinion. I wanted my friends and family to be healthy and also support the environment with natural products. The final reason I got into social sharing and e-commerce was to earn additional income and to help others do the same. I figured since I bought similar products in the past, why not get paid for using them now? I also wanted to help others find a fun and exciting way to earn additional income by sharing products they were going to use anyway. Through Brilliant Wellness, we offer a variety of clean living wellness products such as liquid collagen, our infamous fat-burning pudding, smart coffee, and all things gut health. Also, a variety of household and self-care products. Many of our products are award-winning, high-quality, plant-based, plant-derived, or as clean as they can possibly be. First-time customers get $10 off their first purchase, and they can also get $10 in Live Clean credits to share the love with someone else. The best value is signing up for Smart Ship to save it up to an extra 15% every month. I love Smart Ship because unlike any other subscriptions, you get a chance to change your order every single month without being stuck with the same products. I can go on and on about these items, but check them out for yourself by visiting drvernitaglenwhite.com/wellness or click the description below and see the show notes for more information. All right, welcome back, everyone. So I'm excited to share about this article. I had no idea it was happening. I was researching something else and it flashed across the screen. Harvard hires its first Black female president in its 400-year history. Wow. And I saw that, and I don't know if people understand the magnitude of that, but I guess if you're outside of the ivory tower, it's like, well, what's the big deal? But it's like if you think about a company that's been around for over 400 years and they've only had white male CEOs, and then eventually a woman came about, but she was still a white woman. And now all of a sudden they have a Black female CEO. That is amazing. And she's not even old. She's like in her 50s, right? She's not the youngest president. I think Harvard had a president back in the day. He was like 35 years old. But that was a different time and how things were set up a little differently, the whole institution of higher education. But she's not the first Black female to hold the presidency of an Ivy League school. It was Dr. Ruth Simmons who was the first Black female to be a president at an Ivy League school. And that happened in 2001. And I think I was just coming out of high school in 2001. So she went from 2001 to 2012 at Brown University. And it's interesting that I never knew about that. Like, shame on me, because I was entering my doctoral program in 2012. So the fact that I didn't know about this, it means it's just a lot of history that we have to take upon ourselves to learn, especially in our industry. And so Dr. Simmons, she was the 18th president of Brown University. She was the first Black American president at an Ivy League institution. And then she headed Smith College, which is one of the seven sisters. And that was the largest one in the United States. So it's a women's college. So that's another prestigious university. There are seven sister colleges. She was at the largest one, Smith University. And then she went in retirement. And then she came out of retirement and led Prairie View A&M University in Texas. And I think she stepped down either March of 2021 or 2022. But anyway, because the lady was like, all right, y'all, I'm tired. Y'all go do what y'all need to do. But she still stays active. And I just thought that was just amazing. So she's not, I didn't want to take any shine away from Dr. Gay because this is about her. But I also want to make sure I highlighted Dr. Ruth Simmons because I believe without Dr. Simmons, probably wouldn't have been a Dr. Gay at the Harvard. All right. So Dr. Gay is very, very. I'm excited to see that. I'll be honest. I didn't think I would see this in my lifetime. I put that post on Facebook. I didn't think I would ever see it. It didn't even cross my mind that Harvard would actually have a Black female president. And it's funny. We have a Black president during the time we had a Black president in the United States. But then I was like, yeah, Harvard, probably not, because of the history of Harvard University. But what I do want to get into was her background. Dr. Gage, they put in the article that she's the daughter of Haitian immigrant parents, and that's important because people may you say what you want to say. So when Black people from the Caribbean come over, it's still it's a different experience from a Black American born and raised in the United States. I won't get too deep into that, but it's a difference. So her parents came over like with nothing, and then they worked their way through colleges. Both of them went through education. I think her dad became a civil engineer. Her mom, I think, was a nurse. So they instilled in her the importance of education, but not only, hey, just go get this knowledge. I believe they instilled in her the power of applied knowledge and leveraged knowledge. So I know people like to say knowledge is power, but that's not true. It is really applied knowledge and leveraged knowledge that's actually power. And so Dr. Gay, I'm trying to see. So she got her degrees at Stanford University, where she earned her undergraduate degree. Now, even though Stanford is not one of the Ivy League schools, and there was a reason why, I think back in the day it was something about sports, of how they categorized Ivy League schools, but Stanford is still in the top 15 universities in the United States. I'm in a state where it's 15 universities anyway in one state. So it's 50 states in the United States of America. And then if you want to include the territories, they have universities as well. So Stanford is in the top 15 in the entire United States of America. So it's not a pushover school. I did a video a while back talking about Stanford and how it's a powerhouse. So she got her undergraduate degree from there. And then she went and earned her PhD at Harvard in government in 1998. And then in 2008, she joined the faculty of the Department of African and African American Studies. And that's where she started climbing the rank. So again, yes, she went to Stanford. She could have got a job in government or whatever, but she learned I believe it was strategic. Now, I don't know all about her background. Sometimes people just go to schools. I don't know if she had in mind in her undergraduate years, like, I'm going to be president of the university. I don't know. Maybe she did. But I know some people want to blow off undergrad or say it's not a big deal about where you go for undergrad. In some cases, it is, because just a name alone, and you can be like, you can be almost a trash student. But because the name alone, if you've done decent enough to get a degree, that carries weight. So she went to Stanford, and then she was able to get into Harvard. And I know in another article I talked about how they usually don't like to hire their own at certain universities. But then I said that's not always the case. So she got her PhD at Harvard, and then she became on the faculty. I don't know what transpired for her to be on the administrative track, but it worked because then she became a dean and she was the Eggerly Family Dean in the Faculty of Arts and Science. Yeah, I was in the College of Arts and Science, so you have your humanities courses in there, and then you also have your mathematics and your hard science courses in there. So it was a pretty the School of Fine Art, Arts and Sciences is a big deal. All right, so that's a little bit about her background. Now, the reason why it was important to say about her background, if you know anything about Harvard, Harvard in this 400-year history has had all white male presidents, except for that one exception with Dr. Drew. She was the first female president of Harvard. And I'll be honest, I am okay, and it sounds bad, but I'm okay with it taking 400 years. And sometimes, at first, I was shocked. I was like, we're in 2022 and we're still doing first as Black people. But when I thought about it, the data says that only 17% of college presidents are racial minority, and that only 5% of college presidents are either Black women. Well, I'll say non-white. I told you I'm working on, because it says women of color in the article, but I'm working on that because that's like saying colored women. And I told you I'm working on saying people of color because it's like colored people when it's reversed. You may not take it that way, but I told you I heard some logic and I was like, oh, that makes sense. So let me let me figure out how to say that. So non-white women, non-white traditional United States. All right, I'm getting too deep. But anyway, so the reason why I said I'm okay with it taking 400 years. Now, I forget when Brown University was established, but it's old too. So with Dr. Simmons, that was also a different time. I don't really know too much of. I never studied like the climate or anything about Brown University, like I've been fascinated with Harvard. So I won't say too much about there. But for Harvard, if you know anything about the United States history, 400 years ago, and all the slavery and all of that stuff, the timing had to be right for Dr. Gay to enter into Harvard. She was already prepared for this, coming from Haitian immigrant parents, going to Stanford. I don't know if they said anything about her master's, but remember I told you sometimes a master's is rolled up into a PhD in some programs or some universities. So I know she's already had to deal with certain things. But let me take it back. So they're inside this article, which I was a little annoyed that they said this, but I kind of understood when they were saying that when the George Floyd incident happened in 2020, then like all of this uproar happened, and a lot of universities were like, oh well, we need more diverse faculty, non-white administrators and presidents of the university. So there was a surge of Black presidents going into higher education where they were being hired, and then other I think Latino presidents and things like that, but they weren't at major universities, you know. So the reason why now, that was just a little background. Going back, the conditions had to be right for Dr. Simmons. And I'm glad that Harvard didn't just go stick a Black president in there just because of what was happening in the United States at the time, because it had 400 years. And if you know anything about United States history, there were pivotal times. Now, it could have happened earlier, probably, but I wasn't born then, so I can't say too much. Could have happened during the civil rights, maybe. But you got to remember where Harvard is located. It's up in the Northeast, and a lot of civil rights things were happening down in the South. So it's a very different culture. Not saying that racism didn't exist up in the Northeast or where she was in Stanford, but it's just a little different what was happening in the South. I'm not going to get too deep. Again, back to my point. Why am I okay? It's one thing to just have a talking head. I believe Harvard could have easily put a Black president there, Black female, Black male, whatever. But the community had to be open. The board had to be open. The climate on the campus had to be open. The faculty had to be open. And a Black president probably could have been there, but would that Black president have only been there just for a status quo? And so that happens a lot, where people just stick non-traditional white people in positions because they're trying to say, look, we're diverse. And it's not always that simple. Just sticking someone there I'm just gonna say of color until I get what I want to say right. Goodness gracious. Sticking someone in a position because of their skin color or their ethnic background just for diversity's sake is not always the good move, because while I believe that yes, my skin tone and who I am as a woman can get me in the door because you want to check a box, fine. But my credentials, my character, and who I am has to keep me there, and then the people in the around me, I have to feel supported. And when you're in the ivory tower and you don't look like people think you should belong there, you need that support system. So not only, and I was reading a little bit of her background, not only is she's well published, well researched, she's done amazing things, gotten awards, she's made sure that her credentials are speaking for herself. And people have said that she's a great person. So it's one thing to respect someone for their academic work and their research line, but then when they actually love her as a person, that also helps. So they got a person that will be embraced by the community. Now, I don't know. I don't know if she's going to, remember I talked about one of those videos about the trustee boards. I don't know if she's going to be there to be the talking head. I didn't research all of that, but I am certain, knowing things about Harvard, that they were strategic and calculated, and they took their time about making sure that they get the right person. I'm just going to go ahead and say that I hope she has a long tenure there as the president, and I hope it's when her decision to step down and not when she's pressured. But I'm celebrating the fact that she was there and they took their time, and they could be getting criticized. Harvard's been getting criticized because of their, it's not funny, but it's funny because it's in this article, and it's like, can we just celebrate her for making this accomplishment? But then they were like, well, Harvard has been under fire for their ties to slavery, and they've made amends or tried to make amends, and they've created this $100 million fund to do more research in that era, because they were like, we know the indentured servants or the enslaved people, Harvard was built on their backs, and we're sorry and all of that. And I was like, why I got to be in this article, but again, I'm saying I'm okay with it taking that long, because then I didn't want it to be during that time when all the stuff came out that, oh, well, okay, let's stick a black president here, and that'll show that we're sorry. And I don't like stuff like that. So, like I said, I'm okay with Harvard taking that time to make sure that they got the right person. They cleaned up as much as they could. And I know some people might say, oh my gosh, $100 million. That's a lot. Not to Harvard, because Harvard's endowment is $36 billion. So that's a drop in the bucket for them. But we will hear one last word from our next sponsor, the School of Brilliance. Dear game changer, life changer, mover and shaker, you have the positions, titles, degrees, and status. You've done all the things, and you've done pretty well for yourself. You're already good. You're already great. Now it's time to be phenomenal. Are you ready to design a bigger life than you can imagine? Are you ready to embrace a new, better side of yourself? Are you ready to expand what's impossible and live bolder? Well, it's time to activate your untapped superpowers. It's time to cultivate what's already inside of you, and it's time to elevate your potential and possibilities. Welcome to the School of Brilliance with Dr. V, a high-end advice company specializing in life transformation for the powerful professional, the elite entrepreneur, and the overall high achiever. We help you create dynamic and custom life plans, business curriculum, or a combination of both to help you expand and dominate every area of your life. Dr. V's mission is to help you embrace your brilliance and expand your life by operating in your true identity. Learn the best ways to work with Dr. V and her brilliant team by visiting drvernitaglenwhite.com/workwithme, or check the description and show notes below. I talked about that. They were talking about the slavery. Oh, that's another thing. Making sure that, I said this, but the culture, she's there for the students, and the students love her. She's the trustee. The board of trustees had to select her, the other faculty members, and then she has support from outside faculty in other institutions from other Ivies. So this is a big deal. She's going to be the only one in the United States, the only Black president, female Black president at an Ivy at this time, and she's in the small circle of women presidents. Now, of course, they're at smaller institutions, but we're talking about powerhouses, and I talked to you about the different levels of universities and institutions in another video. So I'm going to come back and give you my closing thoughts. I'm making these a little shorter so we can get through our Vlogmas series. All right, and we're back. So I know I didn't go too much into detail. I'm just excited when I saw this article. I'm just excited that there is an opportunity like that. In my Facebook post, I said, this lets you know that anything is possible. I know when we had 45 in the Oval Office, I did say that anything was possible. But when you're seeing something like this, when Ivy League schools are recognizing that Black women can run these companies, they're essentially CEOs, that just does something to my heart. I had this one idea of, I want to be a university president one day. Just putting it out there. I don't know if I still want to do that, but probably had I known about Dr. Ruth Simmons earlier, I probably would have stayed focused on that. But then, God has other plans. But I hope people look at Dr. Ruth Simmons and Dr. Gay as not only just going to college to just get an education, because these women could have gotten their degrees and worked in the private sector, public sector, whatever the case may be. They could have just stayed faculty members, but they are doing the work to get change, to make sure change happens inside the ivory tower. The ivory tower gets a lot of criticism, and I know I've been in there. But until you're in there and you're willing to do the work and then understanding what these women had to go through to climb up those ranks, I think all hats off. So I think this is a win for Black people. I think this is a win for our Black people as Black Americans and our Caribbean Black Americans. It's a win for women. It's a win for women in their 50s. It's a win for educators. I'm pretty sure everyone can find there's something in what this has meant, this historical moment for Dr. Gay to be the first Black female president at the Harvard. I'm just excited about that. Let me know your thoughts below. Chime in on what are your thoughts. Did you even know about this? Do you think it's a big deal? And just I would love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you put it down below. Also, make sure you comment. I said that, like and subscribe if you feel so moved to do so. And as we wrap up, whether you're ending your day or beginning your day, remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.